What the hell?
Rise and shine, sleepyhead. It's time for supper.
Resident Evil 7 Biohazard marks a welcome return to form for one of gaming's most beloved horror series, even if it doesn't quite hit the heights of Resi at its peak. It had been touted by developers Capcom as a return to the roots of Resident Evil, departing from the more action-oriented approach in the last two games for a first-person spook 'em up that comes fully loaded with a VR option. So what is it actually all about? Well, the game starts out with everyman protagonist Ethan Winters getting a mysterious message from his wife Maya, something that immediately sets alarm bells ringing for Ethan since she's been presumed dead for 3 years. Following some vague directions left by Maya, Ethan travels to Dulvey, Louisiana in a spooky old plantain out in the swamps where the reclusive Baker family used to live. Spoiler alert, they still live there and they're not friendly. The Bakers are Dad Jack, Mum Marguerite, son Lucas, and old Aunt Rhodey who looks like a deflated balloon filled with raw sausage meat. Right from the start, you are completely at the mercy of these people. Trying to escape from Jack in your first proper showdown feels like trying to combat the Terminator with a decent knock-knock joke and a fistful of pocket sand. The melee gameplay is unfortunately one of the weakest aspects of the game. You'll swing wildly hoping to connect with your target, and the option to block might as well not exist since you'll take damage anyway. Thankfully, you won't need to use melee all too often unless you run out of ammo, in which case you're better off dead anyway. In typical Resident Evil style, the story doesn't make a lick of sense if you stop to think about it for more than a couple of seconds, and as usual, it doesn't really matter in the slightest. It's campy and convoluted, but if you're a long-time fan, it will give you everything you need. You're guided throughout the Baker's establishment by a woman on the end of a phone line telling you to go to certain places. Who she is and why she cares is a mystery at first, but it gives you enough reason to travel from A to B without getting bored. The game's backstory is found in files and newspapers left lying around, and it's well worth stopping to read up if you want to follow what's actually going on, why the Bakers are out for your blood. Resi 7 has some very obvious similarities with franchises like The Hills Have Eyes and The Evil Dead, but thankfully it still feels like a classic Resident Evil game. It's more akin to Resident Evil 4 than the originals, with the Bakers giving off more than a slight Gyarados vibe. One of the game's strengths is in being able to constantly make you feel vulnerable and underprepared for what's coming next, and it's here where the roots of Resident Evil shine through. While stylistically more akin to Outlast or Alien Isolation, the game drips heavy with Resi nostalgia. Solving environmental puzzles with specific keys and items to progress along a fairly linear path is part and parcel of the Resi experience. The game clocks in at around 11 hours on normal difficulty, which some people might feel a little on the short side. If you really search around for secrets, then you could be looking at upwards of 15 hours, but I didn't feel shortchanged by the overall length. It's been confirmed that there will be some free story-based DLC coming after release, but it certainly feels like this should have been included in the base game. Resident Evil 7 attempts to breathe new life into an arguably struggling franchise, and it certainly feels like they're returning to roots but with a new twist that we were promised. The runtime might be a deal breaker for some, and melee combat does feel decidedly clunky even for a first person game, but for fans of horror and Resident Evil, this is a must try.
You ain't getting away!